Just whose side are you on?
I'm on your side if you'll make room for me.
Dinner will be on in a few minutes.
I'm not hungry.
Oh, now, Betty.
Father, please.
All right.
America saw The Perfect Family every week for 6 years. But in a 1959 episode, something was slipped through that no one was allowed to see. Robert Young's hands were trembling, and his words were spoken a little too slowly. The editors left it in because reshooting would cost $25,000. Years later, his wife finally confessed what was actually happening on set. And it wasn't only one scene, it was nearly every show. The reality about what the cameras happened to record would surprise the families he trusted most. In August of 1949, a new radio series began titled Father Knows Best. There were already 19 other family programs competing to capture the listeners at that point, but somehow this one lasted on the air longer than any of them. It lasted 5 years to the day, and it had 197 episodes, which they aired primarily on Thursday evenings. The creator, Ed James, wrote in excess of 100 scripts himself. Although television was killing most family shows, Father Knows Best continued to do well. It even broadcast on 39 Canadian stations as well. It peaked at a rating of 13.4 in 1951, which was a high that year. Sponsors such as Maxwell House Coffee and General Foods remained committed. Others came and went, but this show set the stage quietly for something greater. All changed once again in 1953 when Robert Young, the father on radio, teamed up with a producer by the name of Eugene B. Rodney. They formed their own production company, Rodney Young Productions, and made plans to take Father Knows Best to television. They joined with Screen Gems and spent $40,000 merely constructing the Anderson family house set on Stage 11 at Columbia Pictures. It was constructed in a manner that the cameras had more mobility, something not widely done at that time. Production of each episode cost $25,000 and used 35mm black and white film. They remained in the lead by having 17 episodes in production before being broadcast. Robert Young and Eugene Rodney did this together, producing 203 TV shows during 11 years of collaboration and structuring the model for family television programs. The most unexpected, however, was when they transformed the father character on the radio. Jim Anderson was witty, irritable, and even rude at times. He frequently insulted his children as stupid and behaved as a tired, grumpy husband. That kind of behavior was common for comedy fathers on radio back then. But when they moved to TV in 1954, everything changed. The new Jim Anderson became calm, kind, and smart. Critics even said he was the first intelligent father ever shown on TV. The difference was so big that it completely reversed the character's image. It indicated just how much America craved powerful, caring fathers on TV following World War II. There was a secret surprise, also. Prior to Jane Wyatt's portrayal of the mother on television, the radio version of Margaret Anderson had been done by Jean Vanderpyle. Most folks are not aware that Jean also supplied the voice for Wilma Flintstone. Once the original actress, June Whitley, departed the series, Jean took over and provided the voice for the majority of the 197 radio episodes. At that time, she was only paid $250 per show. Eventually, she received only $15,000 in total for all her work as Wilma Flintstone. Nevertheless, her voice defined two of the most iconic mothers on TV, and hardly anyone knew they were one and the same. In May of 1954, a few months before the actual show ran, there was a test attempt, Keep It in the Family, which didn't make it. It was shown on Ford Theater and had a totally different cast with the exception of Robert Young. It didn't work out. The actors just didn't mesh, and the family didn't seem real. Eugene Rodney denied the cast and had a complete search for new actors. More than 30 boys auditioned for the part of Bud. The one who received it, Billy Gray, was picked because he did a line that was supposed to be humorous in a completely straight manner. When asked to read a line where Bud makes a statement, "What size screen, Dad?" After listening to a story about a girl who swiped her aunt's TV money, all the other actors attempted to be humorous. But Billy played it straight, and that's what the producers were looking for. Lauren Chapin, the girl who played Kathy, competed against 78 other girls. She had no acting experience, but that's precisely why they chose her. She was like real life. It later transpired that she was working 16-hour days on the set with Monday and Tuesday rehearsals, Wednesday to Friday filming, and Saturday extra work when necessary. She was just 8 years old. She studied with a tutor in a tent between shots, and it was intense. At home, however, it was much worse. She lived with an alcoholic mother and a father who battered her. What audiences saw was a perfect TV daughter, but her real life was one of agony. Jane Wyatt, the actress who played Margaret on television, had a secret of her own. She had been blacklisted in the early 1950s in Hollywood. In 1947, she traveled to Washington on the plane with actors such as Humphrey Bogart to stage a protest against the government's pursuit of alleged communists. Due to this, the studios refused to hire her anymore. At times, she was offered parts only to see them rescinded days later. She was even branded prematurely anti-fascist for protesting Hitler while America was not yet in World War II. That blacklist drove her to television, and Father Knows Best wound up reviving her career. On Sunday nights in October 1954, CBS made one of the most bizarre scheduling errors in television history. Father Knows Best, a family and children's show, was scheduled at 10:01 p.m. on Sunday nights. It had won 4 national TV awards that year, including the Sylvania Award for Excellence in Family Entertainment. Its critics adored it, referring to it as one of the most realistic family comedies ever. How are families going to watch it, though, when their kids had school the following day? Despite the fact that the show was winning over judges such as Ethel Barrymore, it lost viewers weekly due to its unfeasible time slot. It was a unique moment in television history when a show was both winning awards and losing at the same time. It got even worse when the main sponsor of the show, Kent Cigarettes, pulled it off after only 13 episodes. They had committed to 26, but backed out early because the ratings were not good enough. It was surprising since critics were labeling it the best family show on television. The irony was that a cigarette firm barely associated with family values chose to end a show that was much eulogized for wholesome morals. Still, the producers remained hopeful. The press reported that they were convinced the reputation of the show was solid enough to lure a new sponsor. They were not wrong. The cancellation brought forth something television had never experienced. Audiences began to write letters, in the thousands, to CBS in hopes that the show would be brought back. These letters were not brief or in simple terms. Families explained how Father Knows Best was the only show that all members could view, how it had lessons and brought them closer together. It was the first time audiences had banded together to save a television program, and audiences showed that they had true power. So many letters were sent that NBC did catch wind and chose to revive the series, making history for reviving a show simply due to popular demand. Scott Paper Company did see what CBS and Kent Cigarettes did not. They saw the potential in the show and acted fast in order to save it. In March of 1955, they made an agreement with NBC to assume sponsorship. They relocated it to Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m., the ideal time for family viewing. It was a daring move that had cost them $500,000 but paid off. NBC started the production of 13 new shows in May, and the whole industry began discussing Scott Paper's masterstroke. In 1956, the gamble paid off. The program made the transition from cancellation to airing in 19 million homes. Within a year, Father Knows Best was a top 10 rated program in America. Even when NBC canceled it again in 1958, CBS picked up on it immediately, and the viewers remained faithful. From 1960 to 1963, reruns remained on both CBS and ABC and demonstrated that its homey warmth continued to appeal. What had started out as a programming flop became one of television's finest comebacks. In 1954, tens of millions of Americans gathered together in front of black and white sets to see The Ideal Family. They laughed along with the Andersons. They believed in Jim Anderson, the gentle dad who always did the right thing. The kitchen was well lit, the living room cozy, and the children always learned something by the end of the show. It was safe. It was genuine. But what nobody observed was what actually happened when the cameras went away. Behind those bright smiles were two individuals, Robert Young and Lauren Chapin, who were silently disintegrating. Robert Young acted Jim Anderson for more than 200 episodes. He wore a tie, offered sage advice, and was always composed. But the true Robert was sinking. His issues began much earlier than the show itself. By the 1940s, he was already boozing heavily to avoid the stress of Hollywood. Originally, it was to keep his nerves at ease, but soon it dominated his existence. His depression began around 1946 and never actually departed from him. Throughout the whole run of Father Knows Best, while he pretended to be the most even-keel man in America, he was secretly suffering. He used to drink beforehand. He hid it exceptionally well. Even the crew members did not know most of the time. But behind the scenes, everything was witnessed by his wife, Betty. She had to hold him back from embarrassing himself on the street. Sometimes he arrived for work intoxicated. Sometimes he didn't return home at all. Nevertheless, he reported for work and delivered his lines as if nothing was out of place. Lauren Chapin was only 8 when she was cast as Kitten Anderson. She edged out 250 other girls. She was little, bright-eyed, and had a sweet little voice that brightened everyone's day. She won 5 Junior Emmy Awards. She worked in 196 of the show's 203 episodes. But whereas America was made to see her as the ideal little girl, her actual life was one of terror. Her mother was an alcoholic who suffered from tuberculosis and was unable to provide her with the affection she required. Her father was even worse. He began sexually assaulting Lauren when she was 2 years old. The abuse resumed when she was 16, at a time when she was still working on the show. A friend of her family had also mistreated her as a child. She came to work each day to pretend to be a cheerful child in a loving family, but she did not even know what that looked like. She went on to explain that she learned what family should be like by studying the scripts for the show. Her actual home lacked love. It lacked love and contained violence and fear. The kitchen on the show was real. It cost $40,000 and possessed functioning appliances. The actors took coffee and sweet rolls there in the mornings. They placed lunches in the fridge as if it were their own home. Director Peter Tewksbury had them practice every little thing, spreading butter, turning pages, putting the table out until it was totally natural. So to the audience, it seemed like a real family, but was really just a well-painted mask. As they sipped coffee in that kitchen, Robert Young was concealing his drinking, and Lauren was coming from a home of pain. Everything on screen was black and white. Offstage, it was blacker than anyone can imagine. By the time the series ended in 1962, Lauren was only 17, and all fell apart at once. She had been so identified with the role of Kitten that nobody in Hollywood wanted to hire her a second time. She had no career, no money, no assistance. Her mother, the very same one who permitted others to abuse her, even sued her